Hello and welcome again to Not Fake News. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and smash that like button. We have I know you're looking at Water's World, but that's not what we have. We have Tucker Carlson coming up right now. So let's do this.
Thanks to our friends on the 5. Welcome to Hannity, and this is a Fox News alert. President Trump, he comes out swinging and hard and absolutely hammers James Comey. He calling him a liar today and blasting Democrats and, of course, the Destroy Trump media. Take a look at the president from earlier today.
No collusion, no obstruction. He's a leaker. Yesterday showed no collusion, no obstruction. We are doing really well. That was an excuse by the Democrats. Frankly, James Comey confirmed a lot of what I said, and some of the things that he said just weren't true. Who would like to ask? Should I take one of the killer networks that treat me so badly as fake news?
And did he ask for a pledge of loyalty from you? That's another thing he said.
No, he did not.
So he said those things under oath. Would you be willing to speak under oath to give your version of
100%.
Jay Sekulow, Anthony Scaramucci, Greg Jarrett, Geraldo Rivera, Rona Romney McDaniel, Dr. Gina Loudon, Lou Dobbs are all here tonight with reaction. Plus, the propaganda media turns out to be dead wrong about the Trump-Russia so-called collusion and their conspiracy theories, and they have to admit they have been lying to you, the American people. Watch this.
But the assumption of the critics of the president, of his pursuers, you might say, is that somewhere along the line in the last year, the president had something to do with colluding with the Russians, something to do with the helping hand, encouraging them, feeding their desire to affect the election in some way. Some role they played, some conversation he had with Michael Flynn or Paul Manafort or somewhere. And yet what came apart this morning was that theory.
Now, we'll have much more on the massive media credibility crisis later tonight. But first, former FBI Director J. Edgar Comey has been exposed for what he really is, a snake who has slithered his way through Washington, D.C. and the swamp for decades. That is tonight's important opening monologue. All right, so as we learned from his testimony, James Comey is a cunning, calculated, manipulative, and self-serving political operative who is out for revenge after getting fired by President Trump for his disgraceful behavior as the head of the FBI. Now, tonight, we're going to lay out Comey's possible criminal conduct and the many double standards. Now, after testifying under oath that the president, members of the Trump administration, never asked him to stop the Russia investigation, James Comey still claimed that an alleged conversation with President Trump about Lieutenant General Michael Flynn left him so troubled, which prompted Democrat Dianne Feinstein to ask this very important question.
Why didn't you stop and say, Mr. President, this is wrong. I cannot discuss this with you?
It's a great question. Maybe if I were stronger, I would have. I was so stunned by the conversation that I just took it in.
Maybe if he was stronger, he would have said no. That is just pathetic. What a pathetic excuse. Does anyone actually believe that? Now, keep in mind, Comey and his allies in the Washington, D.C. swamp, they have for decades created an image of the former FBI director as a champion of justice and a beacon of truth. Now, that explanation from Comey, that proves everything that you've been told about him is a farce. Now, the guy plays politics better than most politicians in D.C., and here's another thing. If Comey was so concerned about the president and told the Attorney General Jeff Sessions, he didn't want to be left alone in the room with him, he's afraid, then why did Comey then take the president's calls after this allegedly had happened? By not coming forward, and we're putting the law right up on the side of the screen, James Comey, as we've been telling you, he may have violated 18 U.S. Code 4. Now, if Comey thought any of what he claims happened was wrong, then he had a legal obligation to immediately speak up, but he did not. Then there's the stunning admission from Comey that he gave his memo to a friend to actually leak to the New York Times. This is breathtaking. Watch this.
Did you show copies of your memos to anyone outside of the Department of Justice?
Yes.
And to whom did you show copies?
I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. And so I asked a close friend of mine to do it.
And was that Mr. Wittes?
No.
Who was that?
A good friend of mine who's a professor at Columbia Law School.
This is beyond stunning to me. The former head of the FBI, who's been outspoken about stopping leaks, admitted he has now intentionally leaked information because he thinks they need a special counsel, which just so happens to be led by his longtime friend, Robert Mueller. Now, it also makes you wonder if Comey was so quick to leak that information. Was he behind any of the other leaks of the deep state that were meant to selectively pick and to damage President Trump? Now, that is incredibly troubling, and it could also be a crime. Take a look at this very pertinent part of 18 U.S. Code 641, public money, property of records, whoever embezzles, steals, purloins, or knowingly converts to his use or the use of another, or without authority sells, conveys, disposes of any record, voucher, money, or anything of value of the United States or any department or agency thereof, or any property made or...
What?
You need a website. Why not do it yourself? With Wix, you can create your own professional website. Choose from hundreds of templates, whether you're a small business owner,
department or agency thereof, or any property made or being made under contract for the United States or any department or agency thereof. Now, if those memos were classified, which several top legal experts are arguing they in fact were, Comey may have violated that law. And it's also likely that Comey created those memos on government computers, making it the property of the United States government, not J. Edgar Comey. And on top of all of that, there are non-disclosures and FBI rules that Comey also could be in violation of. And finally, Comey may have lied under oath about the Hillary Clinton email investigation. Now, take a look at what he said under oath back in July of 2016. This is important.
We did not find evidence to indicate that they did the erasure to conceal things of any sort. We didn't find any evidence of evil intent, an intent to obstruct justice there.
No intent. The email server in a bathroom closet of a mom and pop shop with top secret special access program information. Really? Is that where it belongs? No intent? Seriously? To mishandle classified information? No intent by destroying 30,000+ emails? So last year, Comey testifies, again under oath, that there wasn't any attempt to obstruct justice in the Clinton email investigation. Yesterday, he said something entirely different. Watch this.
The Clinton campaign at the time was using all kinds of euphemisms, security review, matters, things like that, for what was going on. We were getting to a place where the Attorney General and I were both going to have to testify and talk publicly about it. And I wanted to know, was she going to authorize us to confirm we had an investigation? And she said, yes, but don't call it that, call it a matter. And I said, why would I do that? And she said, just call it a matter.
Just call it a matter? So it looks like Comey may have committed perjury as well, on top of everything else we're talking about. Now, we're going to have much more on all of this with our legal panel in just a few minutes. Now, Comey's revelation about Lynch is just one of his many massive double standards. Now, Comey kept quiet about former Obama Attorney General Loretta Lynch trying to influence his investigation into Hillary Clinton, which is the very definition itself of obstruction. But is now trying to destroy President Trump for allegedly saying, I hope you can let Flynn go. By the way, as was pointed out yesterday, saying, I hope, never led to an indictment on obstruction of justice of anybody. So the Loretta Lynch situation is far worse. So why didn't Comey come forward earlier? Was he trying to protect Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration? Then there's this double standard that Senator Marco Rubio pointed out. Take a look at this.
This investigation is full of leaks left and right. I mean, we've learned more from the newspapers sometimes than we do from our open hearings, for sure. Do you ever wonder why, of all the things in this investigation, the only thing that's never been leaked is the fact that the president was not personally under investigation, despite the fact that both Democrats and Republicans and the leadership of Congress knew that and have known that for weeks?
The only thing that wasn't leaked, the only thing, the exculpatory thing. Anyway, Comey had told the president 3 times that he wasn't under investigation. So why couldn't Comey have let you The American people know that truth. Instead, Comey, he sat by, he watched Democrats, he watched the destroy Trump propaganda media endlessly push and advance their black helicopter tinfoil hat conspiracy theories about Russia collusion with Trump in the campaign, which we've now found out is completely untrue. Comey let this liberal, insane feeding frenzy spiral out of control for months. But if you remember back in June of last year, he felt compelled to publicly clear Hillary Clinton of wrongdoing for her email server, despite the fact that she had top secret, that's right, top secret special access program, classified information on that email server. And we can't forget that up to 5 foreign government agencies hacked into that server and likely have everything on that server. Now, Comey doesn't care about the Constitution, as I've been telling you. He doesn't care about equal justice under the law, the equal application of the rule of law. And he proved that by not doing anything about Hillary's emails. Obvious felonies were committed in this case. And, of course, he didn't investigate the Clinton Foundation. Uranium One deal. 20% of America's uranium are in the hands of Vladimir Putin, and the Clinton Foundation got millions from people associated with that deal. So here's the bottom line tonight when it comes to J. Edgar Comey. He is a skilled political operative who navigated his way to the top of the deep state by doing whatever's necessary. That's why I gave him the new name, J. Edgar Comey. Here with reaction from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, the founder of Skybridge Capital, Anthony Scaramucci, and Fox News host, former defense attorney Greg Jarrett. Jay, let's start with you, and more importantly, let's go over these issues in terms of the legality. U.S. 18 U.S. Code 4, 18 U.S. Code. The second issue, what is it? 641.
641. Yep. So look, I mean, Greg has done a great job of reporting on 18 U.S.C. 4, and it has been exactly correct. And that is, if the then director of the FBI thought that, in fact, the president of the United States was obstructing justice, he had an affirmative obligation to go to the Department of Justice to at least have a file open and report this. It's an affirmative requirement. If you don't do it, it's a crime. So obviously, he did not think there was obstruction of justice. That's number one. Number two, let's look at what took place here. The director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation has a meeting with the President of the United States. He takes notes from those meetings. He does not release them to anyone purportedly at that time. He puts them in the drawer of his office, I guess. He does this, by the way, according to his testimony, in his FBI vehicle on an FBI computer, and he just saves it. Just puts it in the drawer. I'm going to save it for later. Later comes out because he gets terminated. And by the way, left and right were calling for his termination. We were for a year in the middle of the election. What he did was outrageous. But then take it a step further. He sends the memo to a friend of his, who, by the way, was a consultant to the Department of Justice, to leak it to the New York Times. And he said he did that because on the Friday, the president said, you better be careful. You better be careful what you say. Talk about the tapes, all of that. Okay, here's the real issue. The contents of that memo, the substance of it anyways, was already reported in the New York Times the day before the president tweeted anything. And then, Sean, he goes under oath and says, I did this to get a special counsel, which, by the way, is impaneled the next day. So you tell me what this is.
Outrageous.
It's more than outrageous. It's a crime. And if you go to the idea that then he shared this information, could you imagine if an FBI agent did a 302, which is basically the form that evidently no one's seen, James Comey, the memo of the conversation, and leaked it to the New York Times, what would happen to them? They'd go to jail.
You're 100% right. Greg and Jay's right. Both of you, by the way, have done great work here. And Greg, do you agree with Jay's analysis? Is it that serious? And do you think something will happen as it relates to Comey and the law here?
Yeah, Comey said these are his personal documents. No, they're not. They're government property. Just read the Federal Records Act and the Record Management Act and the Privacy Act, which is actually published on the FBI website. And you, importantly, Sean, put up on the screen Code 641, which makes it a crime to convert government property and convey it to somebody else. That's punishable by 10 years behind bars. So, I mean, I think Comey is actually looking at serious legal jeopardy himself. And in addition to that,
that's right,
he signed a non-disclosure agreement that said, I will not disclose records or raw data. Well, he did precisely that. And at the end of the disclosure agreement, it says, if you break this contract, you can be sued for money damages by the government, and surely they should do that, and you can be criminally prosecuted, and that doesn't matter that he's been fired and is no longer the director.
I say squeeze him for Hillary info.
Well, 18 U.S. Code 641, 18 U.S. Code 4, Anthony Scaramucci. Let me go to a different issue as it relates to this, and that is, this to me is now the biggest ever. All of these deep state leakers, and by the way, I have great faith in the intelligence community. We need that tool.
I know, I feel the same way. I feel like that too. Oh my God. Are they thinking the same thing I am? Probably not.
I already told you. I'm gonna you to death.
Whoa.
Wait, I have great faith in the intelligence community. We need that tool to fight back ISIS and Iran and China and Russia. Very key. But for those that have been abusing and using as a political weapon or weaponizing our intelligence gathering, they all have to be weeded out, and they need to be gone sooner than later, and some of them prosecuted.
Well, he certainly has license now to do that. I think that leaking omission was very damaging. But what I'm worried about, Sean, is that when you listen to the testimony, you could clearly see why the president felt himself vindicated by the testimony. But then minutes after the testimony, the mainstream media drops this cloud and fog around the situation. The front page of the New York Times today was the most disturbing. It was totally disconnected, Sean, from what actually happened in the testimony. And so what I'm worried about...
Did you actually read that, Anthony?
No, I glanced at it in the gym, Sean, okay? I had to look at it this morning at 6:30. No, I didn't. I had a little bit of vomit in my mouth. But the point that I'm making is that these guys surround the narrative and they try to change it on the president. And I think this is something the president is justifiably upset about.
Stay right there. When we come back, President Trump has harsh words for the former FBI Director James Comey.
Can't the president sue the mainstream media for this? If not, put them in jail, sue them.
He said he would be willing to speak to give his version of events. We'll have more with Jay Sekulow, Anthony Scaramucci, and Greg Jarrett. That's coming up after the break, and also on this busy Friday breaking news night.
There have been many, many stories purportedly based on classified information about lots of stuff, but especially about Russia, that are just dead wrong.
Oh, Lordy.
Our own Geraldo Rivera will weigh in on James Comey crushing whatever credibility the media has left. All of that, plus the RNC chairwoman, Ronna Romney, McDaniel, and Gina Loudon, and much more straight ahead.
This program is brought to you by
The right choice.
Frankly, James Comey confirmed a lot of what I said, and some of the things that he said just weren't true.
Did he ask for a pledge of loyalty from you? That's another thing he said.
No, he did not.
So he said those things under oath. Would you be willing to speak under oath to give your version of
100%.
And welcome back to Hannity. Now, that was the president hitting back hard against James Comey's testimony. Back with us with a reaction, Jay Sekulow, Anthony Scaramucci, and Greg Jarrett. I got to be honest, Jay, I love this. No collusion. None. By the way, never under investigation. No obstruction. Comey's the leaker. And then he goes on, to get, let me go to one of these fake news guys in the news media. And then he said, I never asked for a pledge of loyalty. I never knew this guy. And the media's been running with this like it's gospel truth, since Comey started in his angry, vindictive way because he's a fired, disgruntled employee.
So, Sean, this is the complete collapse of James Comey and the Comey narrative about this case. It's over. I mean, there is no case there. And by the way, when you got people like Chris Matthews, and then respected people, law professors like Jonathan Turley, that are saying that there may be a violation of law, right? It should be James Comey.
Alan Dershowitz.
That's the problem. But look at the response. Look at the response to Dianne Feinstein. When she asked the question correctly, why didn't you say something if this happened? maybe I would have. Could you imagine me giving that answer to the Supreme Court of the United States? Well, if I thought about that question, it's ridiculous. This is
if
the
you
guy
gave me
that's
that answer, you'd
supposed to
never
be
be back on the show. We'd throw you off the show. It's just so pathetic.
Pathetic.
All right,
and
Greg,
not good for the country, by the way. All of this is a distraction.
Oh, that I agree, and the president addressed that today. And 80% of his time has been used for this. Greg, what's your take on this in particular?
Well, look, a couple of things. First of all, somebody ought to get this guy an X-ray and make sure he's got a spine. Because he came across as, Wendy Weiner. Oh, gee, I wasn't strong enough. I didn't, I was scared. It was a cowardly answer. He was like Cowardly Lion all day yesterday.
Nauseous.
Yeah, the American thinker actually called him a 6'8" pajama boy, a snowflake who needs a safe place. And, that's not far from the truth. And the other thing I would say is, and I mean this quite sincerely, every time he opens the mouth, he contorts the law and just absolutely mangles it. And I seriously wonder how this guy ever managed to pass the bar exam. And you pointed out the Hillary Clinton case, in which he said he wasn't going to prosecute her because she didn't intend to break the law. My goodness, that is not the legal standard. The legal standard is, did you intend to commit acts that broke the law? And she clearly did.
Just put it in a private server, right? Yeah, I just happened to delete 30,000 of them. Some included top secret information. Anthony, the question that was most shouted at the president in the Rose Garden today was, well, what about the tapes? And he said, well, I'll tell you in the very near future. And a lot of you are going to be disappointed in my answer. My interpretation is he put out the suggestion in Comey's mind, don't lie.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any tapes. Thoughts?
Well, I don't know if there are any tapes or not, but what I think they consistently underestimate about our president is how quick he is on his feet and how long-term he is in terms of his strategic thinking. And so I think the next move, Sean, is to clean this out. I think he tried it the Washington way for at least the first 4 or 5 months, and he's going to basically go to all of these people and say, hey, we tried it the Washington way. It did not work. We're now going to try it the Donald J. Trump way, and I think you're going to see very positive results and a lot of effective change coming from the president over the next 2 or 3 months.
All right. Guys, you've all been amazing. Analysis people can't get anywhere else because the media is so corrupt. They colluded with Hillary. Thank you all. And when we come back on this busy Friday night, news-breaking night tonight on Hannity.
There have been many, many stories purportedly based.
I have to stop for a second and say, thank you. Yes, thank you. I'm glad he thanked them. Weren't they wonderful? I mean, the truth is so clear. It's so clear. The mainstream media's narrative is an attempt to distract us, keep us busy until the next election, keep everyone thinking bad things about Trump. All the bad narratives they can put together and false claims that they're going to put out. So we have to stay strong. I think we need to fix the voting systems. Very important we fix those voting systems. This way at the next election we know our vote counted. I just did a video in Atlanta. They arrested 12 people, 11 temporary workers and one leader, organizer of that group, and they were putting fraudulent votes. They don't know how many, but it was, I'm sure, look, if they did 1,000 each, that's 11,000 votes. Okay, all they had to do, it was terrible. So I just did that video. Point is, we need to fix the voting systems. Let's continue watching.
Based on classified information about lots of stuff, but especially about Russia, that are just dead wrong.
One thing that J. Edgar Comey did do is he crushed whatever credibility the media had left yesterday when he declared they get stories wrong often. Geraldo Rivera joins me next, and Lou Dobbs, and much more straight ahead.
When it comes to heartburn, trust the brand doctors trust. Nexium 24-Hour is the #1 choice of doctors and pharmacists for their own frequent heartburn. For all day and was in Jordan about 2 weeks ago. Diplomats say this could lead to renewed efforts by the U.S. and Russia to end Syria's long-running civil war. At least 400,000 Syrians have been killed during the conflict. In May, Russia, Turkey, and Iran reached an agreement creating 4 de-escalation zones. Representative-elect Greg Gianforte will plead guilty to assaulting a reporter. Associated Press reports that Gianforte plans to enter the plea on Monday. The altercation took place in May, just a day before the special election. The Montana congressman has also agreed to give $50,000 to the Committee to Protect Journalists. I'm Jackie Ibanez, now back to Hannity for all of your headlines. Log on to foxnews.com. Have a great night.
Yeah, don't do that again, honey. We're watching Hannity.
Welcome back to Hannity. So in a shocking turn of events, one of the biggest losers from yesterday's much-anticipated Comey testimony was the Destroy Trump propaganda media. Now, we're going to break down just how James Comey humiliated the mainstream press and why they're now facing a massive credibility crisis in tonight's mini monologue. All right, so yesterday, the former FBI director, James Comey, J. Edgar Comey, told the Senate Intel Committee that many of the media's Russia collusion stories are just dead wrong. Watch this.
There have been many stories purportedly based on classified information about lots of stuff, but especially about Russia, that are just dead wrong. The challenge, and I'm not picking on reporters about writing stories about classified information, is the people talking about it often don't really know what's going on.
All right, now after that testimony, even Mr. Throw Up His Leg, Chris Matthews, he himself came to this stunning conclusion. I was even shocked. Take a look.
Sewers, you might say, is that somewhere along the line in the last year, the president had something to do with colluding with the Russians, something to do with the helping hand, encouraging them.
Oh, Jesus. What is this? It looks good.
You want to make real money? Dirty little secret for you. It's in arms.
Colluding with the Russians, something to do with the helping hand, encouraging them, feeding their desire to affect the election in some way. Some role they played, some conversation he had with Michael Flynn or Paul Manafort or somewhere. And yet what came apart this morning was that theory.
Pursuers. Now, the black helicopter crowd, the tinfoil Russia conspiracy theories being pushed by the media, the Destroy Trump media, have now come apart at the seams, and now it's all been wrong. They've been lying to you, the American people. Now, of course, MSNBC was not the only outlet having to backtrack. The Hill is reporting that, quote, CNN issues correction after Comey's statement contradicts their reporting. And even ABC was also forced to update a story following Comey's remarks. And then, of course, there is the paper of record, so-called paper of record, the New York Times. They were singled out yesterday for being flat out wrong. I'd argue again. Take a look.
That report by the New York Times was not true. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, in the main, it was not true.
On February 14th, the New York Times published a story, the headline of which was Trump campaign aides had repeated contacts with Russian intelligence. You were asked earlier if that was an inaccurate story, and you said in the main. Would it be fair to characterize that story as almost entirely wrong?
Yes.
All right, now the New York Times, they're desperately trying to save face, first issuing a tweet that reads, quote, "We are looking into James Comey's statements and we will report back with more information as soon as we can." And then later publishing a full article entitled Comey Disputes New York Times article about Russia investigation, where they tepidly stood by their reporting and openly wondered why Comey rebuked their coverage. I guess we won't be holding our breath for a full retraction and apology. So, despite some widespread embarrassment for all these people in the Destroy Trump media following the Comey testimony, you think we can ever expect them to stop spreading their fake news? In other words, land the black helicopters, get back to reality? Or will their crisis in credibility continue to grow? Joining us now, Fox News correspondent Geraldo
Land the black helicopters.
This is a personal thing for me. I don't think anybody vetted Obama, honestly. There were very few of us that thought Trump could win. The media never told the full story on Hillary's emails to server, never gave the full failed record of Obama, and now this 10-month witch hunt. And they're barely wanting to acknowledge how wrong they've been.
You know, Sean, the media tends to slant left. They tend to be liberal. That is part of the landscape of the American pop culture. That's just the way it is. But this is different than that. This is a mean-spirited, this is an almost hatred that comes from Trump's surprise election. The story about the Russian intelligence officials having contact with the Trump campaign aides is a gigantic story. You'll remember when it hit the front page. It was for the first time it put the Trump personnel in the KGB, in Moscow. They put them right with the prime operators of the kind of anti-American. It really was a very unsavory scene. It was a huge story. And guess what? It was not correct. The story was wrong, almost entirely wrong is the way, Senator Cotton asked, and James Comey then responded. This is a very, very big deal. This isn't just a kind of an ideological slant. This is a vindictive effort, it seems to me, to kill this president or this presidency, and a lack of the kind of professionalism that it takes to apologize when you are wrong.
All right, here's the thing. They're so often wrong, Geraldo. You know what? They were wrong on Obama. They were wrong on Hillary. They never did their due diligence on emails and the Uranium One deal, for example. They never did their due diligence. They never thought Trump could win. But think back. They were also wrong on the Zimmerman case, Trayvon Martin. They were wrong about Ferguson in their reporting. They were wrong about Baltimore in their reporting. They have been wrong so often as they advance their political agenda. And by the way, I'm not looking for props being right. But I will say this, if I get one little itsy-bitsy thing wrong, Geraldo, they're ready to get, all out wanting to fire me, and I need you protecting me.
Yeah, I've got you back all the way, you know that. Yeah, but this is talking about people's backs. President Trump has a bullseye on his back this big. It is incredible how every day this man wakes up knowing that he has 20 of the best reporters in the country at the Washington Post newsroom, waking up also thinking, how am I going to screw the president today? How am I going to get the president today? They have led this entire investigation, and it turns out, look at where we are right now. And I think that this is the only network that's really slowing people down and saying, okay, where are we with this? What do they have? They have General Michael Flynn, the National Security Advisor, who apparently lied to the Vice President and others. He's in deep doo-doo. General Flynn is, not because of what he may have or may not have done with the Russians, but because he lied about any contacts he had. When you go beyond that, what else is there? Is there any evidence? And the answer is no, there's no evidence of collusion.
Geraldo, thank you. Great analysis, and we appreciate you being here. When we come back on this busy, breaking Friday news night tonight on Hannity.
You're a Democrat looking for the smoking gun behind motive. You didn't get it.
Even the Destroy Trump media, they're begrudgingly now having to admit the Russia collusion narrative that they've been advancing for 10 months actually came apart after Comey's testimony, but they're still going after the president with a vengeance. The RNC chairwoman, Rona Romney, McDaniel, and Dr. Gina Loudon, they'll have reaction. And later tonight.
No collusion, no obstruction. He's a leaker, and frankly, James Comey confirmed a lot of what I said. And some of the things that he said just weren't true.
President Trump comes out swinging against the former FBI director. Lou Dobbs is here to weigh in on that and much more. Stay with us.
When you have allergies, it can seem like triggers pop up everywhere.
Go to livesimplysafe.com now.
Back at Hannity. So in his hearing, the fired, disgruntled FBI Director James Comey confirmed what I've been saying all along. Your media in this country has been dead wrong and lying to the American people for months about so-called Trump-Russia collusion and their theories. But of course, that is not stopping the Destroy Trump media from going after the commander-in-chief. Take a look at this.
Criminal investigation is a textbook obstruction of justice.
Is just a classic obstruction of justice in the mold of Watergate.
You're a Democrat looking for the smoking gun behind motive. You didn't get it. But atmospherically, big picture, this is still a horrendous day for this president.
This whole mess is a tragedy of errors by a president refusing to accept the limited powers of his office. Presidents are not dictators. You get elected to the office in this country, you are not Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe.
It is textbook, not obstruction of justice. Not at all. They're lying to you. Joining us now with reaction, RNC chairwoman Ronna Romney McDaniel and psychology expert and TV and radio host Dr. Gina Loudon. Ronna, I'll start with you. It's textbook, not obstruction of justice. If we have any felonies committed, it's the person or persons that James Comey protected, like Hillary.
Yeah, there's no obstruction of justice that was proven yesterday. Listen, Sean, the only group that is less self-aware than Hillary. Yeah, but the only group that's less self-aware than Hillary Clinton is the media. The media continues to throw story out of story and story after another that's not true, that's against the president. They did it all through the campaign when he was candidate Trump. Now they're doing it as the president, and they're underestimating the American voter. We see through it. We recognize that this president is fighting for the American person, that he's fighting for jobs and wages and better health care and national security. So the media can continue to be lack self-awareness and continue to lie and be dishonest. But middle America, they know that the president is fighting for them.
Well, we saw that in the poll about the media. 60% of Americans don't trust him. Dr. Loudon, great to see you, by the way.
Thanks, good to be with you.
I think one of the more important aspects here, you know, is...
Get ready, 'cause here I come.
Well, last thing, I'd like to introduce our new social media manager, Lily.
I think one of the more important aspects here, you know, is they were so not prepared for him winning. And I think the president was right today. This whole Russia thing is because he won and they lost and they need excuses. Maybe I'll tap into your psychological mind here and your expertise. This is beyond derangement syndrome. This is like an obsession, waking up. How can we destroy the president?
It's like an entire cultural psychosis, Sean. I've never seen anything like it. You know, we wonder how throughout civilized history these horrendous things happen. This is how, when people dilute themselves to such a degree that they believe their own lies and they're willing to lie upon lie upon lie just to continue to try to confirm the lies they already told. And this is where we are. And as Ron has said, you know, or maybe it was you that said it, their approval rating, the media's approval rating, is far lower than President Trump's ever has been or ever will be.
Dr. Loudon, let me ask this then. We just played for you. For 10 months, they've been advancing lies.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when I do something wrong, I feel guilty, I feel terrible. You know, they just keep going on with their lying. They don't correct, they don't try to make it right.
No, they've become a circus sideshow, Sean. And this president, meanwhile, is head down. He is keeping his promises to the American people. He is out there talking about the things that matter to the people in mid-America that Ron was talking about. And he's going to continue to do that. It's a good darn thing, Sean, that this man has been an executive his entire life. He knows how to focus despite the storms going on around him. And every time I've ever seen him, he's pretty relaxed and chill and having a good time, just like you said, having a great weekend.
You know, Ronna, no wonder why they want to destroy, on the left, talk radio and the Fox News channel. I would argue before the 2018 and 2020 elections, because we're in. We're the only ones left telling truth to the American people at this point. They just lie with regularity.
We need you. I mean, there is no fairness out there. There is no balance in the media. I was watching a media show last night. They had 9 contributors. They were all Democrat, all left-leaning. They had 1 Republican guest. They determine what their narrative is going to be. They push it. They don't have any fairness. I'm just going to say, I'm from Michigan. We see it. We know it. The American people are smarter than you're giving us credit for. And that's why President Trump won. Yeah. That's why people are proud of what he's doing. They know he's fighting for them. But it is unfortunate that we have a media that refuses to report the facts.
I promise this audience, just wait. We are going to expose all of this. Every person that's lied to you, we will show you and remind you. Ronna, thank you. Dr. Loudon, always good to see you. Thank you. And coming up on this busy, breaking Friday news night tonight on Hannity.
No collusion, no obstruction. He's a leaker, and frankly, James Comey confirmed a lot of what I said, and some of the things that he said just weren't true.
The president hammering the former FBI director over his Senate testimony. Lou Dobbs is here with reaction and much more straight ahead.
I've been blind since birth. I go through periods where it's hard to sleep at night and stay awake during the day.
Learn about Non-24 by calling 844-844-2424 or visit my24info.com.
Poor little baby. blind. That's sad. I couldn't be a doctor.
Welcome back to Hannity. So earlier today, during a joint press conference with the president of Romania, President Trump slammed the fired, disgruntled FBI director, and that's J. Edgar Comey, over his testimony yesterday. Take a look.
J. Edgar Comey.
No collusion, no obstruction. He's a leaker. Yesterday showed no collusion, no obstruction. We are doing really well. That was an excuse by the Democrats. Frankly, James Comey confirmed a lot of what I said, and some of the things that he said just weren't true.
Would you be willing to speak under oath to give your version of
100%.
All right, joining me now with reaction, the co-author of the brand new novel, Putin's Gambit, from the Fox Business Network. Our friend Lou Dobbs is with us. You know, I watched this, and we've been talking about it. When the president speculates,
hey,
my buddy Mike Myers goes, oh, obviously, he's saying, I got tapes, you better not lie. And the more I think about it, Lou, I actually think that Comey and a lot of the things he said yesterday and things that have come out this week, maybe in the back of his mind, he was thinking there's tapes. And probably we got more truth out of him. That's brilliant play by Trump and likely not existing.
Yes.
No, I think you're right. And I also think that we also got some, if you will, some falsehoods, obviously, as well. You know, the Financial Times, I just got to point this out. They said that as a result of Comey's testimony, they headlined that Trump's character is on trial. This is one of the... This shows the FT to be one of those left-wing nut job publications. I mean, this is over-the-top activism. And to see that happen, this much we know for a fact. One, Trump was never under investigation. The president did not collude. There is no evidence that he did. And yet, intelligence agencies pursued this investigation, and they were egged on by President Obama, who we do know was spying. His national security apparatus was spying on the Trump transition team. This is upside down, and the fact that the Senate Intelligence Committees, Sean, with Senator Burr and Senator Warner there pontificating, they know damn well there's nothing to this. This is nothing more than a show trial, and they should be ashamed, and the American people should demand their heads.
And so much due deference. And then that brings up the issue of what he was saying to the fake news reporter about this whole issue of, yeah, will you testify before Mueller? Yeah, okay. And by the way, this is his word versus my word. Mm-hmm. I've been shown consistent here, and I was proven right on the issue of collusion and corruption, and I was never being investigated and obstruction, and now Comey's been exposed as a leaker, and then the whole Loretta Lynch issue and the Hillary Clinton issue. But I got to tell you something here. This is really important. If he's willing to testify against Comey, then we get back to the legal issues I discussed earlier in the show. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's fine, except for this, Sean. There should be consequences of what has happened here. The testimony of Comey yesterday reveals that there is no substance, no possible way for the Senate Intelligence Committee or the special counsel to move forward because, A, the crimes have all been committed by the investigators, starting with Director Comey, starting with the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, who is telling him not to call the investigation into Hillary Clinton an investigation.
And he listened.
But a matter, and he rolled over like a trained dog. And I think that this is, if he were not already fired, he should be fired again.
Lou Dobbs, have a great weekend. Congratulations on the great new book. When we come back, we need your help. A very important question of the day, but more importantly, the funniest viral video about President Trump and James Comey. You don't want to miss it. That's next, straight ahead. Time for our Friday question of the day. So, do you think the president was vindicated yesterday? Oh, big time. Go to Facebook.com/Sean Hannity. We want to hear from you at Sean Hannity on Twitter. Let us know what you think. Now, I saw this on Twitter earlier today. A hilarious video about the Comey hearing and President Trump. I loved it. Very funny. Watch this.
Donald J. Trump is not going to jail, y'all. Comey wasn't talking about nothing.
It goes on a little bit longer. It's on my Twitter account at Sean Hannity, and thank you for being with us. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have this evening. We hope you have a great weekend. I know Donald Trump will. We'll see you back here on Monday.
Yeah. And I got the Tucker as well. Thanks for watching, folks. Hope you enjoyed.